Hello and welcome. Hayden Groves with you from DG Real Estate in Fremantle, here with Dimitri from our office. We're going to talk a little bit about the rental market. Now Dimitri, rentals are in really high demand at the moment. I think our vacancy rate is around 1% at DG at the moment. So what's going on? What's fueling this demand?
Absolutely, Hayden. We have had a very busy last couple of months. At the office, we have processed so many applications. Our vacancy is indeed 1%. There is a shortage of really good quality, well-positioned family homes, especially in Fremantle and the surrounding suburbs.
So we're starting to see rents increase, I'd imagine, and here we are today at a lovely home in King Street in the lovely Plympton ward in East Fremantle, and I'd imagine when this property goes live tomorrow,
yes,
we're going to get quite a few applications, because I've heard that we're getting not only 5 or 6 applications, but we're getting close to 20 applications for some properties, which is really tough on tenants, isn't it?
We had a fantastic result this week. We leased, the team leased already 5 properties this week, given the very low stock that we have at the moment. Like we said, our vacancy rate is at 1%. We're talking about a handful of properties only available from our portfolio. So we expect this property here to have really good response as well.
Yeah, I'm sure it will, which is great for the landlord. It's not so good for tenants, obviously, having to compete to try and find property. And I noticed that earlier today, the McGowan government has made a somewhat foolish decision, in my opinion. The longer that you manipulate the market through legislation, the harder it's going to get to unravel all of that and go back to a free market down the track. And I think that given that less than 2% of all tenancies have shown to be impacted by COVID-19, it's pretty foolish, in my opinion, to have a piece of legislation that affects 100% of tenancies when 98% of the market would really rather just do their own thing. So take note, Mr. McGowan, you haven't really paid attention on this particular occasion. What's next, do you think, for the rental market, notwithstanding changes to the legislative framework? Do you think as we come into this busier time, which is spring, often spring and summer gets the busiest time for the rental market, do you see just upward pressure on rents continuing and vacancy rates continuing to be very low going forward?
For the short future, and as long as the borders remain as they are and our economy stays the way it is, yes, I do see the rents having an upward trend, definitely. It's also very important to monitor how many properties are on the market every week, which we keep a very close eye on. Just to give you some stats and to our viewers as well, last year we had 6,000, just over 6,000 available properties for rent in Perth, and right now we're sitting at 3,120. So
almost half. And of course that inevitably does put upward pressure on rents over time, doesn't it? In fact, I heard that one property in our office in Spearwood, we advertised it thinking that a reasonable rent would be $620, but we got $750 a week for it, just through the natural competition in the market. And so it is going to be a pretty challenging time for tenants out there, and unfortunately with this latest government decision, it'll be down to the government to house all these people, and I'm not sure that they've got enough houses to go around. And so it's very important that 160,000 properties are privately owned that tenants live in Western Australia. 160,000 in the private rental market. You just have to you have to encourage more investment into the market in order to meet the supply demands. And so, are investors, Dimitri? One last question before we go. Are investors coming back into the market yet in a meaningful way? Are they buying property yet, or are they still sitting on the sidelines and waiting for all this ridiculous legislation associated with COVID? Once that's gone, then that's when they'll start to buy. What do you think?
That's a very good question. I have noticed a very good mix between the two categories that you mentioned, Hayden. We have, of course, the investor who wants to see how everything unfolds and what happens with the legislation and how we move down the track. But we also have some clients that they have taken note of what's happening in Western Australia at the moment, and they're taking advantage of it because we have really low prices. The market has been really low for the last couple of years, 2-3 years. So at the moment they're seeing an opportunity to come in, purchase a property at a good location, and given the shortage of rental properties that there is on the market, they want to put the property on the market for rent
and get a good return.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so our rental returns are probably going to start looking a lot better than it is on the East Coast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's a good thing to note. If you're an investor out there, perhaps time is of the essence in relation to buying now rather than waiting for prices to start to edge up, because of course the sales market is also very strong at the moment in
At the
Western
moment,
Australia.
very strong.
Yeah.
That's absolutely, it's good news.
Well, look, thank you, Dimitri, for your
Thank
time
you, Hayden.
today. It's fantastic to have you along. And of course, don't forget,